Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I am your host, Sam Vicini. We're powered by CLNS Radio, where you can win up to $200 in prizes by submitting your 2017 March Madness bracket in the free CLNS Radio Bracket Challenge starting next week. Win big, and remember, joining the league is completely free, and you'll be competing against the likes of me, Danny LaRue over at Real GM Radio, everyone who has podcasts on this network. To get the login information, simply follow and direct message at CLNS Radio on Twitter, and you'll be ready to go. Today on this Wednesday edition of the show, we have Reags from over at Barstool. He's just the best guest that we can get every single time. We're going to chat about a few different topics, including LaVar Ball, changes that we'd make to mid-major conference tournaments, and then some quick previews of the big league conference tourneys. How are we doing, Reags? Is championship week treating you well?
Yeah, it's good. You know, I've even stepped up in the world. Usually I podcast with you up in our bedroom. We have a recliner up there with my fiance out at soccer. I'm down on the couch today, so I got the big screen as opposed to the smaller TV. Guarantee though, both dogs bark at some point. So it's a win-win for everyone because I get to hear dogs barking, which just everybody loves. Like, it's gonna happen. So I'm just warning everybody.
It happens on the show all the time. Whenever you have a 6-pound Chihuahua Terrier mix, like little Penny here, who I posted photos of on Twitter today, watching championship week. It's always going to happen. She's a little mess and she's a little finicky, even though I love her to death.
I have a 14-year-old, 12-pound miniature dachshund, and I have a 2-year-old, 98-pound chocolate lab. So,
those are good dogs.
Guess which one's louder?
Oh, it has to be the 14-year-old.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Chocolate labs tend to be, or even like any sort of Labrador, those are pretty quiet dogs, because I had one when I was growing up as a kid.
Yeah, he's a typical lab. He's playful. He's dumb as rocks, but he's also smart at the same time. That's why he's Oakley.
That's funny.
The perfect name.
That is really funny. You know who also is very loud and tends to get his name in the news? It's LaVar Ball. He decided to go on Colin Cowherd's show today and I guess kind of talk shit to Charles Barkley. After my colleague over at Sporting News, Sean Devaney, wrote up a thing kind of talking to Barkley and talking to some NBA scouting people about, is LaVar Ball hurting his child's draft stock? And it's a question that I've asked people around the NBA as well. I get mixed answers a lot of the time. Like, I don't think anyone's going to pass on Lonzo because of having to deal with LaVar, but I will say that, like, a lot of the feedback I've gotten is, like, that they don't really want to deal with it either.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing. We've talked about this before, both privately and in text messages and on the podcast. He's doing this all to promote. Like, it's somewhat of an act. It's not that he may believe this, which is fine. Like, you can believe your kid is better than LeBron. I don't care. Like, you have that right as a parent. I'm going to be that parent. Like, I've said before, my future son is going to be a better coach than Krzyzewski because I'm realistic. We're not players. We'll coach. But it's getting to the point where it's almost like Grayson Allen for me, where everything's just brought up to another. Like, there's no reason to keep talking about him or this or bringing him on shows. Like, just let him do his thing. I'm out in California with the local stuff. Teams aren't going to pass on Lonzo Ball. It's not college. Like, professional teams can separate parents from the player. It's a little tougher in college just because it's the way it is. But he's going to go top 4. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. He's going to go in the top 4 or 5, whatever picks. Probably, I would say right now, if the draft was held, he'd have a shot to go number 1, depending on who got the number 1 pick.
Right.
Might end up going like number 2, I would say is probably his most likely outcome.
Right.
Here's what I'll say, and this comes from someone who I've probably talked to LaVar for 15 minutes one-on-one. I've talked to Lonzo for 20 minutes one-on-one and been with them in scrums a bunch, and I've talked to people around them. Like this is not an uninformed opinion. Well, what I will say is, like, I am not an expert on them, but this doesn't affect Lonzo at all. Like, even personally, like, people, I think I saw Dick Vitale tweet out today, he's putting so much pressure on Lonzo. And I'm just like, dude, have you ever met that kid? Like, that kid does not feel pressure. Like,
if he had pressure, I want to see what he plays like without pressure.
Yeah, like seriously,
because an All-American year is pretty good.
Like, he is just the most poised athlete that I've gotten a chance to cover at 18 years old. Like, he just is so relaxed and calm, and I mean, like anytime.
I mean, he plays like a 40-year-old, which is a compliment. Like,
yeah, like anytime that LaVar says something crazy, here's what happens. Lonzo doesn't even know about it until after it happens. Someone tells Lonzo. Lonzo just like shakes his head, maybe chuckles a little bit, maybe like, says, "Oh, that's dad," and then moves on like it's nothing. They've been dealing with those three kids their whole life. This is what LaVar does, and I don't have a problem with it from LaVar's perspective. Here's the final thing here. Like, I have never talked to a single person who knows that family or knows LaVar, like anyone who's actually spoken to LaVar and taken the time to do that, who thinks LaVar is like a bad person or a bad father. He is genuinely a really good dude who has a good heart. He just is very, very loud and very boisterous and very strongly believes in his kids. So I think that it's all pretty ridiculous, to be honest. I have people in my Twitter mentions like, he's damaging Lonzo's career, right. And I'm just like, no, that's not what's happening here. That's not at all what it is.
Like, do you know how many times something like this comes up? It's just the fact that it's now the day and the age where he can be heard whenever he wants, wherever he wants. Like, look through the history. There are there are insane parents like this with stars throughout all time. Like, it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Like, if you're a good player, you separate it. And most organizations not named the New York Knicks can probably separate it too, like when they draft him. Well, if it's the Knicks, they'll probably hire LaVar to be GM or something. But it's just different, man. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't care what LaVar says. Do you? He's promoting the big baller brand. That's all it is. Like, people just got to understand that. Like, it's like you said, it's not affecting Lonzo. It's not affecting his play at UCLA. It's not affecting UCLA. It's not affecting his draft stock. It's not going to affect how he plays in the NBA. I know 3 for 4 are a fact. We don't know what he's going to be like in the NBA. It's a guess. But
like someone said to me, like, like this is going to affect how he's going to play in the NBA, and I'm just like, here is what I will say. He might not be a great NBA player, like we don't know that yet, but I guarantee you it's not because of the things that LaVar Ball says.
No, like, it'll be because of his defense and like inability to maybe pull up in the mid-range game.
Right. Like, there are reasons to be concerned about Lonzo. LaVar isn't one of those reasons in my mind. Let's move on to these mid-major conference tournaments. Because Monmouth lost to Siena over the weekend, Belmont lost to... Who did Belmont lose to? Any ideas in the OVC?
Did they lose to Jacksonville State?
Yes, that's right. It was Jacksonville State. Some number one seeds essentially went down that could have ended up pulling off upsets for these leagues, and because they went down, it's unlikely that these leagues will advance further into the NCAA tournament. So that's brought up the renewed discussion of how should we find a way to incentivize the regular season so that these teams can move further into the NCAA tournament, or at least win their conference tournament, even if they don't end up winning a game in the NCAA tournament. We've had some people come up with, I saw Gary Parrish today, my old colleague at CBS, who I love unconditionally, say that he thinks that teams should go to the finals automatically if you win the regular season championship, have it be a home game, and get a 10-0 lead at the beginning of the game. That seems a little bit crazy ridiculous. Pants to me. Yeah. But, what are some of your ideas to do to kind of incentivize this? Because I do think that it's a problem for some of these mid-major leagues.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to speak out of both sides of my mouth a little bit. I don't think it's necessarily a problem. Like, if you're good, just win the games. Like, if you're Monmouth, just beat Siena. Don't give up 64 points and a half. That had nothing to do with it being at Siena. That's just terrible defense.
I don't agree with that. I watched the end of that game, and
yeah, but 64 points and a half is 64 points and a half.
Yeah, but you had Nico Clarith get hot as hell from deep, and I don't think he does that on the road. Like, it seemed like he genuinely fed off of the crowd to get that hot. So, like, I get it, but like that's just a Metro Atlantic problem more than anything because they have that tournament at Siena every year, and it creates an unfair advantage for Siena.
Yeah, I mean, well, it just happens to be the best arena, and Siena's a usually decent team in the conference, which kind of hurts. But I mean, yeah, I think I don't like advance these guys to the semifinals or finals. Like you don't get to do that in the NCAA tournament. Like, guess what? North Carolina, if they're the 1 seed this year, they don't all of a sudden just go to the Sweet 16. Like they still have to beat a 16 seed and 8 seed, but yeah, they do it closer to home. So I'm fine with just going like the the route of like what is it, the Big South, where they played the whole tournament at Winthrop, who was the 1 seed. Just do that. I mean, there's no reason not to do that. Most of these smaller conferences, you're not flying cross country. It's not like the American or anything like that. They're mostly within a reasonable distance to where fans can get. If they're going to travel to wherever, they can a neutral court, they can get to a home court. So I think that's just what, just personally, I think they should just host the entire tournament at the 1 seed. And whoever wins regular season, they get the tournament. And you get the home court advantages for the 1 seed. But it's a neutral court for everyone else. I'm just not a fan of saying, well, they automatically get to the semifinals or finals, because if that was the case, why don't we do that in the NCAA tournament too? Why did Gonzaga dominate the regular season? They were 1 seed and had to play Wichita State and lost in the round of 32. Was that fair?
No, I guess that what I will say is that I think there's a much larger difference in the quality of team in these conference
tournaments. Right, but I'm just going under the premise of just you dominate the regular season. What advantage do you get in the postseason?
Yeah, and I get that. I think that I do want it to be a little bit more advantageous. My idea yesterday was just like make it double elimination for the league for outright league champions. Like if you're an outright league champion and you lose somewhere in the tournament, maybe you get like a second up after the tournament ends against the conference tournament champion. Like, yeah,
but what if it's one of those where it's like the SoCon, where it was a 3-way tie for first, UNC Greensboro won the tiebreaker.
Is my point. Like, if that's the case, that's why I kind of prefaced it with outright champion.
Right, okay.
If you're an outright champion, then you get that advantage. If you are tied and it's like a 3-way tie or a 2-way tie, you play the tournament straight and go from there. But
yeah, I get that. The other thing I'll argue, though, is if the conference doesn't have a balanced schedule. Because then again, you're getting into strength of schedule, and okay, well, is it fair that? And I get you play your schedule, you win the games that are in front of you, but let's just say that you have the ninth toughest schedule in the league, and but you're finished second, and the team who wins had the second easiest schedule in the league, something like that, where I just you get into a little gray area with that, but. Yeah, I mean, like I said, to me, it's just let the winner of the conference host the tournament.
Yeah, and like even so, maybe advancing them to the semifinals too, which happens in some leagues. I think that the OVC actually did that with Belmont. It still didn't go through.
The other thing I said is do what the Ivy League does. Just make it a 4-team tournament.
Sure, and hold it at the league. Well, the Ivy's holding it at the Palestra. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, again, you kind of get that, but just hold it at the league champion. You only have to win 2 games.
Yeah. You've come close to convincing me on this, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I just don't like, I love conference tournament week. Like, we get these stories. Like, I'm watching the Northern Kentucky-Milwaukee game right now. Like, it's awesome that Milwaukee, as a 10 seed, had a chance to win, and Northern Kentucky's there. Like, it's just. I understand why the conferences don't want to get rid of it, because it leads to TV, it leads to money, and it just leads to good stories too. Heading into the NCAA tournament, yeah, you kind of screw yourself with, okay, well, we'd be a 13 seed, now we're a 15 seed or something like that. But yeah. Hey, it's how college basketball has been set up forever. I mean, do you really want? We can all go back to the old ways where the conference tournament for even major conferences, the only way you got into the NCAA tournament. I don't think anybody wants to go there.
No, we don't.
So. I mean, it's like I said, I'm fine. Like I don't like advancing it, but either do, if you're really worried about it and you're, one of those, the SWAC or, one of the really low majors, then go with the Harvard or the Ivy League route, or go with the Big South route. I mean, I'm fine with either one for the low majors, but the true mid-majors, I like hosting the whole tournament.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be clear here, too. Like, we've had quite a few champions already from these leagues that should have won the league. Like, UNC Wilmington has gone through. Wichita State has gone through in the Missouri Valley. In the SoCon, who won the SoCon? East Tennessee State, right? East Tennessee State was the best team in that league this year.
Yeah, they were the 3 seed.
But they were the best team in the league nonetheless.
Right. Like, but I'm saying, it's just one of those situations where, I mean, I thought East Tennessee State was by far the best
team in that league. Yeah, but they're going through, and that's important. I guess that I just wish that we could incentivize the regular season a little bit more. And by the way, as this is happening, Milwaukee and Northern Kentucky are in a 6-point game with 3 seconds left, and that line was 5, so I am shaking in my boots. This is not good.
Oh, you're delayed then, because I just saw the ending, and I also was on -5.
Did it end as 6?
We're good. Yeah,
Yes.
They dribbled it up, shot a wide open 3, and it banked off the back of the rim.
Beautiful.
It was terrifying. Terrifying.
Shout out John Brannon.
Yeah, shout out to my 25 minutes away from where I live. Northern Kentucky is going to go crazy. It's been talked about a lot here in Cincinnati, that program. That's awesome for them. Like, that's an awesome story.
For those who don't know, this is like their 6th year, I believe, in Division 1.
It's their first year eligible for the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, it's insane. And seriously, they moved from, what league were they in before? They moved from the Atlantic Sun?
They were the Atlantic Sun. They advertise. Their arena is awesome. Like, they do dollar beer nights and just kind of let you get loose down there.
Uh-huh.
And they advertise Dunk City coming to Highland Heights.
Yeah, so they were in the Atlantic Sun, but they theoretically moved up to a tougher league in the Horizon, and they just won it. That's awesome. It's a great story. And we'll see what they can do in the NCAA tournament. They're not probably going to be more than a 15 seed, but hey, crazier things have happened.
Who knows? I mean, team like that where they shoot a ton of threes and they shoot them well. Hey, 3-point line's so dangerous in college basketball.
So if you want to go see Northern Kentucky in the NCAA tournament, you know what you can use to see them? SeatGeek. The NCAA season is in full swing. We're about to get to the tournament time, and SeatGeek is the smartest, easiest way to get tickets to your favorite team's games. With SeatGeek's seamless mobile experience, you can buy and sell tickets in just 2 taps. SeatGeek helps you find the best seats at the best prices, fully guaranteed. There's nothing like being in the stadium for the biggest plays of the year, and SeatGeek will get you closer to the action for a great value. I have the SeatGeek app on my phone, and it's the easiest way that I've found to shop for tickets. I can be anywhere, and with just a few taps, I can instantly find seats. Reags, have you used SeatGeek in the past?
Oh, absolutely. I love SeatGeek.
SeatGeek, I mean, I would imagine you probably used to go to that Xavier-Villanova game, right?
If I didn't have free tickets, I would have.
Yeah, exactly. I used to go to hockey games out here. It is the best possible application to use if you are trying to go to games, concerts, comedy shows, theaters, wherever and whatever you need. SeatGeek has it. Best of all, my listeners get a $20 rebate off their first SeatGeek purchase. To get your $20 rebate on tickets, download the SeatGeek app, go to the Settings tab, and click Add a Promo Code. Enter the promo code GAMETHEORY, GAMETHEORY. SeatGeek will send you $20 after you've made your first purchase. Again, that's download the SeatGeek app and enter the promo code GAMETHEORY. No space in between those 2 words. And have fun this weekend. Have fun going to NCAA tournament games. And hopefully you enjoy your time using the app. All right. The lion's share of the show today will be dedicated to previewing some conference tournaments here. I know that the ACC has gotten started today because that league is just such a bear. But we wanted to talk about some of the important highlights of these tournaments here. And the way we're going to go through this is I'm going to ask Reags 3 questions. What team has the most to gain or lose? Who is the most important player to watch in the tournament? And who wins the tournament? So let's start with the ACC, which begun today. Who is the team with the most to gain or lose in the ACC tournament, Reags?
I think the most to gain is Virginia. Because they're set up pretty nice in their bracket, and they're half of the bracket, and they're probably a 5 seed right now. If they make the ACC final, I mean, you're talking they could get bumped up to a 3 or 4. So I think they might have the most to gain just because of kind of how the bracket falls for them. The most to lose, I think it's Syracuse. If they go out and get blown out by Miami, or even if they just lose to Miami tomorrow, they're firmly on the bubble, looking at probably in Dayton, best case scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that gets really tricky for Syracuse really quickly if they lose that game, because you'd be looking at 18 and 14 losses to Connecticut, Georgetown, and St. John's and Boston College. I know that they have the wins. They have beaten Miami once this year. They beat Florida State, Virginia. They do have the win over Wake Forest, which theoretically, if it comes down to those two teams, maybe that can be something of a tiebreaker for the Orange. But I'm with you. They're in a very precarious position right now, I think.
Yeah, and it's not like they get the benefit of playing like a Boston College to head it, to get the nerves out of the way of tournament play. They're the first game tomorrow, and if for whatever reason, I always think the noon game in the ACC tournament, when it gets kicked off the full day, always gets a little loose and a little crazy.
It's because no one's ready to play.
Right, and it's just always something crazy happens. Like, it's always a good game in terms of closeness. And Miami and Syracuse are pretty comparable teams, talent wise. I think Miami's a little bit better, but I mean, yeah, like if they lose that game by let's just say they lose by 12 tomorrow, it's
tricky. It gets tricky for them.
Obviously, and we're looking at it in a vacuum. We don't know what else happens across the country, but all of a sudden a couple of bids get stolen. Let's say Utah wins the Pac-12 or Alabama wins the SEC, something like that, and all right, there's one or two slots gone.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on them. I think that they have the most to lose for sure, especially now that Wake Forest has gotten past the Boston College landmine. Wake Forest should be in the tournament, and I know that you feel the same way because you grew up as a Wake Forest fan, but Wake Forest should be in the tournament. They are a very good team.
This is a good team.
Nobody in the NCAA tournament, there's no coach out there who wants to play them as a 10 or 11 seed in this dance. That is a really talented group with two future NBA players, John Collins and Bryant Crawford. So, and
not only that, it's Collins might be a lottery pick.
Yeah, no,
and it's just one of those,
really might.
Right, and it's one of those where I don't care who you are, when you have the best player on the floor, that goes a long way in college basketball.
Especially in those one and done settings.
Yep, and for I would say on the majority side of games, John Collins might be the best player on the floor.
Yeah. The team to gain for me is probably Duke. You just look at what Duke's resume is. They're sitting at 23-8. If you beat Clemson, you go into the next round of the tournament. And you really do have a chance, I think, to build up some ground. I believe they would get North Carolina. Is that right? Or no. They would get North Carolina in the semifinals.
They would get
Louisville in the second round. So if they go out, they beat Louisville, they beat North Carolina, and go to the finals. I mean, if they win the ACC tournament, they're probably a 2 seed. Yeah. And if they go out and lose to Clemson tomorrow, and Clemson is theoretically going to be this really feisty group who is probably trying to save Brad Brownell's job. I mean, there are indications that he might be safe, he might not be. We don't really know yet. But, I mean, Clemson has a decent amount to gain here, whereas Duke, they have a lot to gain, but it is a bit more muted. And I think the difference, though, from a 4 seed to a 2 seed probably does get it done for Duke in terms of just getting up to play that game.
Yeah, where do you think Virginia ends up if they win it? Let's say they go out and win the NCAA tournament or the ACC tournament. Where do you think they end up?
Probably a 3, I think.
Right, and same type of thing. You're talking a jump from probably a 5, maybe a 6 if they go. I mean, because they would have to play in the quarters as the 6 seed.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at Virginia's resume, they have wins over North Carolina and Louisville, which are obviously going to go a long way. They have a road win as well against Notre Dame. Actually, I forgot, they beat Louisville twice because they just randomly really have Louisville's number.
Louisville and Notre Dame, they always beat those two teams.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Which is on their side of the bracket, which is why I posted a blog today of the ACC preview. I picked Virginia to win it.
Yeah, I mean, if they win, they're probably a 3, and they could theoretically rise up to a 2. But we'll see what happens the rest of the way here. Player to watch in this tournament.
Yeah, I think we touched on him. It's got to be John Collins. I mean, he's playing his way into the lottery.
Yeah.
And he's the guy that, basketball fans know, but now the casual fans are starting to hear his name, and, people looking at mock drafts and all right, who's someone to watch in the NCAA tournament? And then he went out and got a double-double today. I think it's John Collins.
Yeah, he didn't take a field goal in the first half and still ended up with 19 points and like 12 rebounds. Dude's a stud. He has a very real chance, like Reags said, to get up into the lottery. Wouldn't surprise anyone at this stage if that happened. You picked Virginia as your winner.
I did.
Man.
I just think that bottom half of the bracket just kind of opens up for them.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, they always, for whatever reason, they own Louisville and they own Notre Dame. Well, there's your your 3 seeds, and then I had Louisville in the finals. I had Louisville beating North Carolina. So there's your quarters and your championship game. I don't trust Florida State away from home, and there's your 2 seed.
Yeah.
So I just kind of like the way that bottom half of the bracket opens up for them.
Yeah.
And then the top half's brutal. You look at Carolina, Duke, Louisville, and then even throw in Miami and Syracuse as your 8-9. That top half is pretty brutal.
It's loaded for sure. I think I'm going to go with North Carolina. I understand going with someone else, but this North Carolina team to me is the most complete out of that group. Let's move on to the Big Ten. The Big Ten, I think that Purdue is probably the clear favorite here, but it's definitely the most wide open Big Ten tournament that I can remember, especially in terms of the bubble. So who do you think has the most to gain and lose this week?
God, this is just they just call this the average tournament, the middle tournament instead of the big because it's trash. But the most to win, I'll tell you what, the most to win, Michigan. I think Michigan was one of the most disappointing teams in the country this year.
And then they went on a little run late, but
went on a little run late. I think they're I would say they're comfortably in the NCAA tournament. They could easily beat Purdue in their second game. So you get wins over Illinois and Purdue. Maybe that jumps them up to like a 7 seed in the NCAA tournament. Which again, I mean, this team's like I was high on Michigan coming in. I think they're talented. I still like their roster. So I think Michigan might have the most to gain just because I think they have the capability of winning this thing from a long shot perspective. And then just really improving their seed in the NCAA tournament.
So for me, I think that the most to gain has to be, I mean, maybe the answer here for both of these categories for me is Illinois. I mean, this team can get into the NCAA tournament if they win if they win a couple games, or they can go out and lose their first game, and then John Gross probably gets fired. So
that Michigan-Illinois game is going to be intriguing.
Yeah, like how do you think that ends up going down just from a practical perspective? Like this is there's just so much to lose if you're Illinois in that game. And, Malcolm Hill wants to make the NCAA tournament, and Tracy Abrams has been around for 8 years and wants to make the NCAA tournament.
He's a senior that's been around.
Morgan, right. They have a lot of seniors in that group. I think there's a lot to lose, and I think they're going to come out and really play with some sort of intensity. And if they beat Michigan, then they go out, and I believe they get Purdue in the next game. If they beat Purdue, I think that the crazy thing is that somehow they're in the NCAA tournament. Another team I would look at for that one is Iowa. Iowa just kind of snuck up onto the bubble in a really weird way, but sure.
I have Iowa as my long shot. So in my blog previews, I did like long shot and then like picked it. I have Iowa as my long shot. Same type of thing for Virginia. That bottom half of the bracket could open up for them.
They've been a lot better throughout the last half of the year in the Big Ten than I thought they
wins
would be.
At Maryland and at Wisconsin. I mean, that, especially late in the year, getting road wins like that when you're getting ready to head into these win or go home on neutral courts or, away from home.
Which, by the way, this is not a neutral court for Maryland.
Right.
This is essentially a home tournament for Maryland. In that vein, player to watch in this tournament.
Kevin Huerter.
I love him.
Yeah, I think he's struggled. He's kind of hit that freshman wall, struggled as of late.
Yeah.
But if he gets going, Maryland's just such a different team. I mean, he's 6'7". He provides a mismatch, especially with the way Maryland plays. Just gives Melo Trimble someone else to get the ball to. I think he's capable of getting hot. He's capable of turning into the guy that drops 18 a game in the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. He might be a year away from that, but I think he will certainly have a year where he does that,
I will say he's gonna have one big game in the Big Ten tournament. Like
Yeah.
he's gonna go off for 22 in one of these games.
For me, I'm going to go with another freshman. I'm going to go Miles Bridges.
Yep.
Michigan State's in kind of another precarious position here. They need to go out and take care of business in their first game. I don't think there's any doubt about that. If they don't, I don't know that they're necessarily in trouble. I think that they're probably in, but your wait on Selection Sunday is going to have to be a lot longer if you don't go out and win that first game. I think Bridges is going to be able to take care of business, though. I mean, he's been tremendous coming down the stretch here. Nick Ward's also been really good late for them, but I just think Bridges is the more dynamic player on that group, and they really do need a win. Who do you think ends up coming out of this tournament victorious?
I think Maryland wins. For the reason you said it's home court for them. Their fans will fill up, the arena. Their fans travel okay. And being so close to home, I think they'll show up. Like I said, I think Herter goes off. I think Melo has a pretty consistent tournament. And I just think the top half becomes a mess. I think Michigan beats Purdue. And then, the bottom half where Maryland is, you got Wisconsin who struggled as of late, and you got Northwestern who struggled as of late. So that bottom half of the bracket, again, similar to the ACC, kind of opens up for them.
Yeah.
Where I just think they can take advantage of a couple upsets. And, to me, I have Maryland over Minnesota in the title game.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I was actually going to pick Maryland, but because you picked Maryland, I'm going to go away from it. I'm going to go Minnesota. Minnesota has won, I believe, 8 of its last 9 games. Some solid wins there. I mean, nothing too crazy, but they just look like a very competent team. They are probably the second or third best defensive team in the league. And if they can get some offensive production from guys like Nate Mason and Amir Coffey, I think they can make a run here. I'm going to go with Minnesota, but this thing is totally wide open. Like, this is by far the most wide open of the 6 major conference tournaments here. Let's move on to the Big 12. The Big 12 has a little bit of intrigue as far as the bubble, not nearly as much as the Big 10. But I think that once we get down into that Final Four, this is where that tournament's going to kick up and really start to be interesting.
I think it gets interesting, not from a bubble standpoint, but from, you want to talk about a hell of a matchup in that 4-5 game of Juwan Evans versus Monty Morris.
Yeah. I mean, those two guys, they just had a hell of a battle, I believe,
and it's at
2
noon.
weeks ago.
It's at noon, which is just, I mean, it's perfect from a gambling perspective,
yes,
from a degenerate perspective, from a skipping work perspective, from everything. That matchup as your 4-5 at noon is the perfect thing for the conference.
You know what's really frustrating about those nooner games for me? They start at 9. Like,
that's perfect, though.
It's fine. I mean, I'm up at like 7 o'clock most mornings.
Right.
Like, I'm definitely awake, but I don't know. Like, am I really in the like full-on gambling spirit at 9 a.m.? Like, I want it to be at least 11 o'clock, I guess, maybe.
See, at least that one, though, at least that's a game that you can watch without a rooting interest. Like, I love guys so much. Like, they probably are my 2 favorite players in the country.
Yeah, I love both of those guys, too. They're really fun players to watch. They were actually, one of those guys was actually going to be my player to watch in this tournament. But let's go to most to gain or lose here. Who do you think has the most to gain and lose?
The most to gain, I'm inclined to say Kansas State, because I don't understand this whole Illinois State. I'm going to go on a little tangent here with the bubble. I don't understand this whole Illinois State getting in right now or on the right side of most brackets over like a Kansas State. Kansas State, when you look at their resumes, Kansas State has a bunch more quality wins. When you even drop it down, they beat the opponents that are similar to who Illinois State beat, and 3 of the 4, even 4 of the 5 best wins go to Kansas State. So I think a win or 2 by Kansas State kind of pushes them over Illinois State on the right side of the bubble, which again, all you want to do is have a chance. I think they might have the most to gain just in the sense that they can get in, and again, you're talking about maybe saving Bruce Weber's job.
Yep.
I don't know if he's necessarily going to get fired or not, but getting in at least kind of quiets that.
Well, what do they? They're in the quarters automatically. Who do they play? They get the 7-10, right? Or no? Who do they get? How does that bracket look?
I'm pulling up. I can't remember which that one is off the top of my head because that one's weird with it being
a 10-team league. It's really funky because like don't the like 7 and 10 teams play and then the 8 and 9 teams play? Is it? Do they maybe get like Baylor in that round? Now that I think about it, maybe Baylor in the quarters to start.
Yeah, so I'm pulling up. They get. Oh, never mind. That's not a bracket. Of course, the Big 12 just sucks at putting up a bracket.
I'm pretty sure they're going to get Baylor. I think that's the way it works.
So if they get Baylor, that's a hell of a win right off the bat.
If they win, yeah.
Right. That's what I mean.
Yes, they get Baylor, Kansas. It's Baylor, Kansas State.
Baylor, Kansas State. With West Virginia is the two on that side of the bracket getting Texas Tech, Texas.
Yeah, like that's a really difficult draw, I think. Kansas State did beat Baylor earlier this year, though.
Yeah,
it's a feather in their cap. The first game that they played, they actually beat Baylor at Baylor, by the way. The first game they played was a 9-point game. It was kind of tight both ways. So I don't know what to think of this Kansas State team, to be honest. Like, I really like Wesley Iwundu. I enjoy watching the two guards, Stokes and Brown. Deem Wade is a big guy that can at least, kind of do some things. He can shoot a little bit at 6'10", but I just don't know. There's something weird about this team that I think it should be better than it is.
Probably, but I still like.
Maybe it's depth. Like you kind of look at the fact they play like 7 guys, really. Like it probably is depth, and that's going to be something that hurts them in this tournament. I mean, they're going to play back-to-back against West Virginia, which good luck having to play a back-to-back against West Virginia as a team that runs 6 to 7 deep. But like Baylor gets them in. I think if they beat Baylor, that gets them to the NCAA tournament.
And I'm looking more from a program perspective too. Of it could avoid a coaching search, which decide if you think that's a good or bad thing. But
no, it's a good thing. You want to avoid that coaching search at all costs. I think
what you think of Bruce Weber or not, but so I think they might kind of have the most from a program perspective. Who do you think has the most to win? Because there's a couple. I mean, there's a ton of options.
I would have said them, in all honesty. Oklahoma State's another team. They finished up this season just on an insane tear.
They were the second ones that came to mind for me.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 losses to Kansas that were both really close. Losing at Hilton, there's nothing wrong with that. Losing to Baylor, there's nothing wrong with that. Outside of those 3 games, I mean, they won their last 8 of the year. They went 8-3 down the stretch. This is a really good, really athletic team. Best offense in the country, according to Ken Pom. And that says a lot about Juwan Evans, first and foremost, but it says a lot about Jeffrey Carroll, who, for my money, is the most improved player in the country. He's hitting 44% of his threes, 80% of his foul shots, 60% of his 2-point shots. He's just been crazy efficient this year. Phil Forte, still a super useful player. Mitchell Solomon has turned into something useful for them. It's a really, really impressive coaching job by Brad Underwood and his staff to really turn around that program after, again, this is a team that just fired Travis Ford last year.
Right. Yeah, I think kind of the winner of that Oklahoma State-Iowa State game would be my second choice of who has the most to gain, because Iowa State, again, kind of ended the season on a nice couple wins. And they could be one of those teams that all of a sudden are a 6 seed or a 5 seed in your region that you're a little worried about just because of Monty Morris.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Player to watch, I'm going to go Juwan Evans here. I think that he kind of goes hand in hand in terms of importance to the team. If he goes off, I mean, this team could win this tournament, in my opinion. They're that good. They're 20 and 11 this year, 19th in Ken Pom. They are just that talented of a team, led by a star point guard, and that can take you a long way.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I would probably agree that Evans the one to watch. But if I'm going out of there, I'll go with Josh Jackson.
Yeah.
Because while Frank Mason is National Player of the Year, and rightfully so, Josh Jackson kind of lets Frank Mason be able to do that. Or he's drawing attention to him more than Mason. And I just want to see kind of how he plays in this one and done situation. It's always unique when you see a guy like this that's going to be a one and done, but that's uber talented like him and how he reacts. So, I'll say Jackson just because, again, when he's going, that Kansas team just has a whole different look to him.
Yeah, I agree. And your winner for this tournament?
Whew. It's going to be a little bit of a cop-out, but I'm going to say whoever wins the Iowa State-Oklahoma State game.
Nice. You're going...
I don't know who's going to win that, but whoever wins it is going to win it.
Yeah. I'm going to go Kansas. That's an even bigger cop-out considering they're just awesome. But, Kansas is just awesome. The thing that kind of concerns me a little bit is you have to play 3 back-to-back games, and they don't have a ton of depth. But we'll see. I think that it's going to be fine. They're just too talented of a team to not overcome that. So.
Yeah, I just think if they catch Oklahoma State's going to kind of have a little something extra in that game.
Yeah.
To kind of prove a point, especially with the close losses, and especially last weekend at Gallagher-Iba.
Plus, again, a somewhat deep team. They play a lot of guys.
Yeah. And they can switch defenses. They can get out and trap if they really want, or as we've seen that they've done lately in the year of sitting back and cutting the gaps and making you shoot jumpers.
Yeah. Let's go to the Big East. Villanova's got to be your heavy favorite here. Who do you think has the most to gain and lose? Because there are 45 bubble teams in a 10-team league here.
I'd say the most to gain is Butler because they can. They kind of have a weird resume when you look at their wins and loss, who they've lost to, but who they beat. Where if they go out and, get to the finals and have a competitive game against Nova, I think they kind of solidify themselves as a top 4, probably top 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. But if they, lose early, then where do you put them? It's just they kind of just have a weird resume.
Yeah.
But the biggest one to lose is Xavier. They lose to DePaul. I don't know how they make it.
No, if you lose to DePaul, you should not be in the NCAA tournament. Full stop. Just if you can't win that game against DePaul, you should not be in the NCAA tournament. If you're Xavier, honestly, I would prefer that they be forced to beat Butler as well. I think that this Xavier team, from what we've seen of them of late, is, and I talked about this in the podcast with Rob over the weekend, but this Xavier team just hasn't been good. They've lost 6 of their last 7 games. I know that you can make the argument, they beat Seton Hall and Creighton without Edmund Sumner, but coming down the stretch here, they are just not one of the top 40 or so teams in the country that's going to get an at-large bid.
Yeah, that's the thing though. They take in the whole season, so that at least helps them there. But yeah, like you said, the last month and a half has been atrocious.
I guess that my thing is is their full season resume all that great even? Just kind of looking at what they've actually accomplished.
It's best win, very average.
Their best win, according to KenPom, and I know it says it's Creighton on the road, but I don't really agree with that because it's Creighton without Mo Watson.
Neutral Clemson, probably.
It's either neutral Clemson or it's Wake Forest at home.
Yeah, that Wake Forest win's looking better and better each game, that's for sure.
That's not a good resume.
No,
full stop.
No, it's not. But it's one of those, there's not a ton of great resumes though out there too, which again kind of helps them. Not necessarily. I don't think it's a weak bubble or anything like that in terms of talented teams. It's just weird resumes all around.
It's weak. It's a weak resume bubble for sure.
Right. The talent of the teams that are on the bubble are pretty good. It's just they've just underachieved.
Right.
I think anybody would say they have the most to lose.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of most to gain, I might go Marquette. If Marquette ends up kind of going on a little bit of a run here, if they can go to the finals, I know that they have to beat Villanova in that semifinal game, but if they can go to the finals, end up with a win over a top 40 Vanderbilt team, 2 wins over Villanova. They have these wins over Creighton. They have these wins over Xavier. They have the win over Seton Hall, I believe. Did they beat them once or twice? I think once. But
I think they beat them once.
Yeah, they have a lot of wins to where I think they could get up to a 6 or a 7 seed if they go on a run here. I don't know if they're going to go on a run, and maybe they do end up in that 8-9, maybe a 7-10 game, but they could really kind of do some damage, I think, and really move up and help themselves in terms of seeding.
Yeah, there's a couple teams like that. I would throw Seton Hall in that same boat.
Yeah. I don't know that Seton Hall can kind of rise as far as Marquette can.
But they can get from the 10 seed to the 7 seed, or something the 10 seed at least up to the 8-9, and then take your chances from there. But
I mean, honestly, I think Seton Hall has to win a game in this tournament too to feel safe.
See, I love this. I'm higher on the Seton Hall team than most.
Well, I love them. I really enjoy the talent level, and I really enjoy all of the athletes and the fact that they play hard defensively. But, I mean, just in terms of what they've accomplished, I do think they need that one win against Marquette to feel safe.
Yeah, again, I guess we're kind of looking at a vacuum, but without knowing what else happens across the country, who would you take, Seton Hall or Xavier? Like, what if Xavier beats DePaul, Seton Hall loses to Marquette?
I would take Seton Hall, for sure.
Right. So it's just funny how we look at that, though, where it's like, well, if Xavier gets to win against DePaul, you're feeling safe, but are you?
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I mean, Seton Hall probably has the best win out of that pairing of teams. They beat Butler on the road.
Yeah, that's a really good win.
Yeah, that's just a full stop, really good win. So we'll see what happens with them, though. I'm not entirely sure what to make of them yet. Player to watch in this tournament.
Angel Delgado.
Yeah, he's a guy that more people need to know about around the country.
Yeah, I've been doing it trying to also just rile up Purdue fans by saying the way we talk about Caleb Swanigan in terms of rebounding and double-doubles, we should be talking about Angel Delgado the same way, especially when I think the Big East is probably better than the Big Ten this year.
I think it is. I don't think that's a crazy statement at all.
No, but it's just people would kind of bite their tongue when they hear that. But he does the same thing as Swanigan does in terms of just going out, dominating the glass, and getting you a double-double every time he steps on the floor. And he's the type of guy that he can control a game in that sense of he'll go and grab that offensive rebound and get you. He has that nice little drop step where he'll go get that little drop step, and all of a sudden it's a 4-point swing. Yeah,
and he's been a way better passer this year too.
Way better passer.
The key thing is he's not quite as efficient in terms of creating offense, and he also is another.
Shoot.
Yeah, he's another guy that has like a small defensive deficiency too. Like he's not. I would say maybe just slightly better than Swanigan, but not like a crazy amount better than Swanigan defensively. Doesn't block shots, doesn't really protect the rim. But I mean, he's averaging 16 points and 13 rebounds a game. Right, it's insane.
Right. I'm all aboard the Angel Delgado train, where I think he's the name to kind of watch.
Yeah, and like the other crazy thing is too, like he's actually increased his production. He's averaging 14 rebounds per game in conference play.
Yeah, he's getting better each game too, which is kind of shocking. Like every time I watch him, I'm like, oh yeah, Angel Delgado. Like what is he probably has like 8 and 7. And then it's like all of a sudden, like they'll show like the bottom line, and he has like 17 and 11. It's like, oh, okay.
Oh yeah, that's what he does.
Right.
I agree with you. Angel Delgado is going to be my pick as well. He is turned into an incredible player for Seton Hall for all of the reasons we kind of just mentioned. A kind of sneaky under the radar one. Do we think Providence is safe?
They're looking closer that way. They've been getting help without any like bid stealing so far, and the fact that their wins kind of look a little bit better each time, and the fact that they just look better each time they're on the floor. Yeah. So, I mean, they
were 4-8 in the Big East, and ended up
like
with the 3 seed.
There's a lot of Providence fans that are obviously stoolies and follow me, and all year it was like I think they're an NIT team, and the next year is their year to kind of make a run towards the NCAA's, and everyone was kind of cool with that. It was weird. Like every Providence fan was like, "Yeah, I'd be completely fine with the NIT this year."
And then it's just like randomly turned at one stage.
Right, and now it's like, wait a minute, like, when did Cartwright learn to like not turn the ball over and pass it more?
Yeah, and I mean, Jalen Lindsey is a 47% 3-point shooter. Right. Like Emmett Holt's hitting a ton of threes now, or not a ton, but like he's hitting threes and can kind of do a lot. Like they have a really fun group. I'm a big fan of this Providence team over the course of the last month, really.
Plus, Ed Cooley's just so easy to root for,
and he's a damn good coach. He is.
Yeah, he is. He's in that group for me with like Dana Altman, John Beeline, Cooley, guys that don't get enough. Guys that don't. Who did you say?
Mike Bray.
Mike Bray, yeah. Bray, I think, is a little bit out of there now just because he's like the Mike Conley of coaches where everyone talks about how he's underappreciated, where he's almost overappreciated.
Yeah.
But like those other 3 guys, they don't get talked about how just good coaches they are.
Yeah.
Like I think all 3 of them are just phenomenal coaches.
I mean, the other cool thing about what Providence does is they essentially just run like 4 guys out there that are between 6'6" and 6'8", like the entire game,
right.
and just say go.
Go ahead and guard us.
Yeah, go guard us. We'll guard you. We'll do our thing, and you will have trouble trying to stop us. Winner for the Big East tournament.
Man, I don't know. Like
Villanova won it last year.
I know. That's why. I just don't think they can repeat. I would say Seton Hall. I just don't think they'll. I just think it's so hard to repeat in the Big East. I mean, I guess Villanova, but
I'm going Villanova.
I mean,
which, by the way,
it's just not fun taking the team that's minus 180 to win this.
Yeah, we talked about everyone in this league except Villanova during the entire time that we just mentioned all of that. I mean, Villanova's probably got the 2 best players in the league, maybe 2 of the best 3 players in the league, depending on what your opinion is of Angel Delgado.
Yeah, I'd say they might have the 3 best players in the league.
Yeah, they're just really ridiculously good.
Brunson, Bridges, and Hart, probably the 3 best players in that league.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally debatable. I would probably still take Delgado over Bridges.
Right.
But I mean, crazy talented group, especially for this league. Let's move on.
But to me, it's like Kansas, where they just don't have a ton of depth. And, how healthy is Reynolds for this thing?
Yeah, no, that's fair. Let's move on to the Pac-12. The Pac-12 really is a 3-team race, I guess, between Arizona, Oregon, and UCLA.
Yeah, can they just play a round robin?
Yeah, I don't know that I'm all that interested in the rest of this tournament.
No, let me know when the semis show up.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But who do you think has the most to gain or lose in the Pac-12 tournament?
The most to gain, I think it has to be UCLA. Because I think if UCLA wins it, they potentially sneak into a 1 seed, or at least they're the 2 seed, staying home in the West.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. UCLA is just kind of got a shot to really do some damage here because they can beat both Arizona and Oregon. And Arizona also has this chance. Arizona can beat UCLA and Oregon in the title. Oregon can only pick up 1 quality win. It makes their road to a Pac-12 championship easier, but it also hurts them from a resume building perspective.
Yeah, because they don't have a great resume, in the non-conference and stuff. They won a bunch of games, but they didn't really beat anybody.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that their ceiling might be a 2, and I think that they're probably just going to end up as a 2 seed.
I would be a little upset if Oregon's 1, unless just chaos ensues across the country.
Right. I don't think they should be a 1 over Gonzaga.
No, and we're doing this right now. Gonzaga's up 10 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
So it's if Gonzaga wins this game, they should be locked into a 1 seed.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. If UCLA kind of wins these games going away, I might kind of waffle on that, but we'll see what happens. In terms of most to lose, I guess that maybe USC is that team because I've just kind of thought of USC as in this entire season. They're going to be fine. They're going to get in. They have wins over SMU and UCLA.
Right.
And then I look around at these bubble projections and bracket watches and stuff, and people have USC as one of their last 4 in.
Dude, it's hilarious. I was talking to my cousin today during work, and we were talking exactly about USC. We were just talking about, kind of what's out there, bubbles and whatnot, and we both were kind of penciled in USC as an 8-9 game, and we looked and we was wait a minute. A lot of people have them in as in Dayton.
It's weird.
When the hell did that happen?
Yeah, I don't really get it, to be honest. I think that anyone who's seen this USC team play this year kind of realizes they're really good. They're really talented.
Even McLaughlin and
DeAnthony Melton's probably going to be an NBA player. Chimezi Metu will play in the NBA. Elijah Stewart and Shaquan Aaron are both really good wings. They have a lot of talented guys. I don't. It's weird to me that they're that close to the bubble, but I guess that they probably, would like to beat, they have to win their first game, first and foremost. That just full stop needs to happen. But, do they need to? I don't think they need to beat UCLA in the next round, do they?
I don't think so. Because, again, there hasn't been those bids haven't gotten stolen yet. And we're starting to, now we're starting to get into the more major conferences that maybe it happens, but everyone that's on the bubble got lucky with these early conferences so far.
Yeah, I agree. Player to watch, who do you have?
I guess Lonzo Ball is the correct answer. That everyone kind of wants to say, but
it is the most like outwardly correct answer, but that doesn't always make it the right answer. If that
I'll tell you
sense.
what, I'll give you a couple right off the bat because I think there are some interesting ones for different reasons. One, Lauri Markkanen, just because he's kind of hit a wall lately. How does he come back in something like this? How is he, if let's say they advance to the finals, how does he do against two quality opponents, assuming everyone kind of holds serve? Ivan Rabb, I questioned him coming back from last year. I just didn't think Cal was going to be that good even before Matthews transferred. Could he potentially get hot and, win a couple games to force Cal back on the right side of the bubble? So those two and Dylan Brooks. I mean, just kind of how does Dylan Brooks play in this? He's been injury prone this year. Can he avoid a freak injury? It's kind of as dark as it sounds. Can he be healthy heading into the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, my pick was going to be Rabb. I think that he needs to have a big few games here. If you talk to people around the league, like this is something I've been kind of talking about for a while now. Like he is one of those players who everyone just kind of assumes is going to be a first round pick. But like, if you actually talk to people around the league, he doesn't have like that many people that are outwardly excited about him. Like he's kind of like Bam Adebayo in that manner, who we'll talk about in a minute. But Bam like keeps getting better throughout the season. And Rabb, I haven't really seen that from him, like to where he's going to continue to gain admirers around the NBA. He
just never made that jump. Like you said, like we've seen Bam, and we'll talk about him later, but we've seen Bam make that jump. We've seen other guys make this jump. Rabb's just kind of flatlined since last year. And, you're talking about not going out in a weaker draft to come back to what everyone expected to be this deep draft. He's got to do something.
Yeah, I mean, he's just given them 12 and 13
12
a night.
10,
but he's also had some really bad games. Like against Arizona, he had 4 points and 4 rebounds. Against Utah in that monstrosity where they lost by 30 last week, he gave them 8 and 8 or something. It was just not a good run of games for him coming down the stretch in February. He really needs to turn that around or else his stock gets real precarious really quickly, I think.
I would agree with that.
All right, who is your winner of the Pac-12 tournament?
I'm going to go UCLA. I know that Arizona's kind of a tough matchup for them with, their weakness and Arizona's guard, having to guard Arizona's guards, but I think they just throw that 3-2 at them and just say,
beat us.
Yeah, figure this shit out and try to shoot and try to take away Lauri from there.
Yeah.
I just think it's one of those tournaments where UCLA is kind of coming in at the right time, and I think UCLA ends up winning it.
Yeah. I'm going to go Oregon. Oregon has the better draw. Has the best draw out of all these teams.
That's the only reason I'm terrified to say UCLA or Arizona's because they'll likely have to play each other in the semis.
And all three of these top teams, you can make a rational case for all of them.
They're the same team. All three of them, the three of them are the exact same. They
in terms
should
of
all
talent
be ranked,
level, yeah.
Right. They should all be ranked 1, 2, 3, wherever you put them in polls.
Yep. So, I'm going to go Oregon, but you could, like Reags said, pick any of these three teams.
Right.
The SEC tournament, I am not excited to watch a single game in this tournament.
I'd see, this is where you're wrong. The SEC tournament championship game has been awesome the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Malik Monk does something crazy because he seems to, ratchet it up for these massive games, but
they've had really good finals.
Half of these teams, I just don't care. I've seen enough. Texas A&M.
You mean you're not psyched for Mississippi State, Auburn tomorrow, or Mississippi State LSU? I think it is tomorrow.
Right. We have Auburn, Missouri, and Mississippi State LSU tomorrow. I mean, what are we talking about here?
Right.
And then the next round of days, what is the likely outcome? The next best game. The next best game is what Mississippi State and Alabama play, and does Georgia play Tennessee? Are you excited for any of that?
I mean, I kind of like JJ Frazier balling out.
So do I, but
the diminutive point guard.
Mississippi's the 6th seed.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely weird because what kind of ruined this too is the fact that South Carolina has fallen off.
Yeah.
To where, you could almost have a Pac-12 situation if South Carolina didn't fall off down the stretch. They have, okay, well, Kentucky, South Carolina, and Florida are pretty similar talent. South Carolina could have been in the race for a top 4 seed, but like I said, they've just fallen off down the stretch, and it just kind of feels like a two-team race.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although I will say Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, that could be an interesting game just because Texas A&M has NBA talent.
I guess I will watch 5 minutes of that game probably. Even as someone who loves Robert Williams unconditionally, I will watch 5 minutes of that game.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's other years past. There's been entertaining games that haven't been the championship game. I don't know where you get it this year, but I will say the SEC title game the last couple of years with overtime last year with UK A&M. You had UK Florida a couple of years ago where James Young fell out of his shoe. There's been entertaining finals to kind of at least save the tournament.
Who is the most to gain or lose? I feel like the top 4 teams are pretty solidly in the field right now. Even Arkansas, who I don't really think is all that good. They seem pretty safe right now. But the rest of the teams, I don't know that they can really make an at-large run. Some people have Georgia on the bubble, but Georgia also is Georgia. And they
can never win the big game.
They're the 8th seed in the SEC tournament for a reason. So I don't know. I don't really. Maybe the team with the most to gain is Kentucky because I feel like
it's absolutely Kentucky. If
they win the tournament, they can probably get up to a 2 seed.
Yeah, I think they might be a 2 seed right now, just because when the reveal came out, they were that 3 seed, and they haven't blown people away, but they've won games. They beat Florida, they won at Texas A&M. They've just won while other teams have lost. So I think they might be up in that 2 seed now. But if they win this, I think they're locked into a 2 seed.
Yeah,
again in this year, you want the best seed as possible because. Those 6 seeds could be in Iowa State or in Oklahoma State.
Most to lose. We don't think South Carolina is going to get mistakenly left home again, right?
It'd be so funny if they got that call again and it was supposed to be for North Carolina.
Player to watch in this tournament. I think there's one correct answer.
I think there's 2. They're from the same team. Right. It's Malik Monk and Bam. Just because Bam's gotten he's getting better each game to where he's fun to watch. I'll tell you what,
Bam is probably the most important player for them going forward. I guess that Malik Monk is always going to be their most important player, but they want to see the most signs in this tournament from Bam.
Oh, I disagree. I think it's from Fox.
Well, they just need Fox.
Just because Fox hasn't looked like himself in the last month with all of his injuries.
Yeah.
And when Fox is healthy, that just changes how Kentucky plays offensively. Especially he's their closer. As good as Malik Monk is, De'Aaron Fox is Kentucky's closer.
Yeah.
You put the ball in his hands, you bring Bam up, and then you set up a kind of triangle pick and roll to where he has the option to drive, throw the oop to Bam, or to kick to Monk for 3. But yeah, I think the 2 to watch are Monk just because he's going to go for 50. He's pissed off after that A&M game. He's going to try to dunk on someone in the first 3 minutes when they play Tennessee or Georgia.
Yeah, I think that I will be surprised if he doesn't score 40 in a game in the SEC tournament.
Yeah.
It just seems like one of those settings where he's going to go into nuclear Malik Monk mode and just decide, oh yeah, I'm going to score 40 now.
Yeah, and Calipari might say, go get 50 shots to do it. He might just be listen, you need to do this. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. In Kentucky, everyone's talked about how Kentucky has this middling resume and is, has these defensive questions and stuff. They're top 15 in both offense and defense, according to Ken Palm. They have wins over North Carolina and Florida, which are both really excellent wins.
And neutral over North Carolina, too. Not even a home win, which makes it even that much better.
Right. I just think that this Kentucky team is probably one of your 6 or 7 favorites for the NCAA tournament this year.
Yep, I would agree with that.
Yeah, just because of the talent level. The last thing here, do we think that Kentucky wins?
Yeah, I think they do. I think this bracket ends up being very chalky.
Yeah.
I think maybe Auburn beats Ole Miss in the second round, and you get like an 11 seed into the quarters.
Yeah.
A&M maybe beats Vanderbilt. Does Vanderbilt beat Florida for a third time?
That would be kind of funny.
Right. I mean, that would be, like, I'll give Vanderbilt credit. They went out. They played a tough schedule. If they beat Florida 3 times, and let's say they make that SEC title game, it at least makes like for a talking point.
Yeah.
For the brackets. I just think, I don't know. It just feels like a very chalky tournament.
Yeah, I agree with that. Any other conference tournament you're looking forward to? Just like any random one.
The Atlantic 10.
Okay, what makes you excited about the Atlantic 10?
Rhode Island starting to play well here late.
Yeah.
Has now transformed it from a two-team tournament to a 3-team tournament.
Yeah.
With Dayton, obviously, and VCU. And Dayton's one of those teams, like, if you're a 1 seed and they're an 8 in your bracket, you're probably not real excited about that.
Yeah.
They've struggled early in the season, but they just weren't healthy. And we've seen them make runs. So, I think that one's fun to watch. And plus, they have guys like Jalen Adams from St. Bonaventure who could ball out and kind of put on a show for a game. Where you look at, I feel like the A10 tournament is always fun to watch too, because it's always the early game on Selection Sunday is always the A10. So I don't know. I always liked it. I wish it was still in Atlantic City. I thought it was awesome when they played in Atlantic City.
I wish it was too. That'd be awesome. I think the one that
what about you? Any random one that?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Sun Belt tournament because UT Arlington needs to win, and also because probably by the time my next podcast is out, I will have like this massive, multi-thousand word feature dropping on UT Arlington. So I'm a big fan of them. I've been around their program. I like what they do. I think that they preach the right things. I really like Scott Cross. I really like all of their assistant staff. I think they're all super smart. Kevin Hervey is probably a potential NBA player down the road. Eric Neal's been one of the most underrated point guards in the country. I just really want to see them in the tournament, and they're the only non-Gonzaga team to beat St. Mary's this year. That says a lot to me.
Yeah.
And they went out and beat Texas. They won their league by 2 games. I'd like to see them getting at large bid if they don't win this tournament, but I don't really think that's plausible.
I think they're more deserving than Illinois State, honestly.
I think they're more deserving than Illinois State. I think they're more deserving than Illinois, to be honest.
Well, yeah.
I would just rather see that group in this tournament than all these middling high major teams like Iowa or something like that. And I think that having one at St. Mary's and having one at Texas, and I think they're tied for like the most road wins in the entire country this year. I think that you could make the argument for them in a way that you couldn't really make it for other mid majors, but we'll see. I mean, that's the one that I'm looking forward to. Weird things always happen in the American too. Like the American this year would seem to be very chalky with SMU playing Cincinnati at the end, but I
hate the American.
That league just always comes up with something weird, I feel like.
It's just boring basketball. Like, the American is just boring basketball.
Outside of SMU, I agree with you.
I don't think SMU's that entertaining. Like, I don't like this. I said the other day, you guys can take all the SMU stock. I will sell it. Like, I don't think this team's that good.
I mean, I really like SMU. They really pass the ball well. They shoot threes. They hit threes, particularly.
They don't play. I mean, they literally they don't play anybody. They've beaten one tournament team this year.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I guess, because they beat TCU's probably not in the tournament.
Right.
Yeah.
That's their second best win, and it was at home.
That's
like they haven't won on the road. They haven't won a neutral court. Like, you can talk about. This is why I hate when people say, "Well, look at the record." Not all records are the same. Like, you can get to 25 wins different ways.
Yeah.
And SMU got there by beating a lot of sub 200 teams.
Yeah, I don't think that's unfair. I mean, both them and Cincinnati are 27-4. At
least Cincinnati won at Iowa State. They played at Butler. They played Xavier. Cincinnati's a much better resume than SMU. Like, I think Cincinnati's better than SMU.
I don't think they're better than SMU, but I agree with you that they have a clearly better resume than SMU. I just like having all of these 6'4" or really like 6'6" to 6'8" guys on the floor at the same time, just saying, try and guard us because we know for hell we will defend you. I think that's a really winning strategy, as we saw with Villanova last year. We'll see, though. You're right. Like, they have not actually accomplished a lot this year.
No, like, and that's why people are like, well, they should be a 3 seed. I'm like, they should be like a 6 seed. Based on resume, they should be like a 6 seed.
Yeah, no, I have no problem with them being like, them and St. Mary's being like 5 or 6 seeds. I think 3 seed is pretty crazy, but like, I have no problem with them being like 5 or 6 seeds.
Here's a nice little degenerate bet for you that I got to ask and I love. Over under American Athletic Conference team NCAA tournament wins 1.5 or 2.5. I'm sorry, 2.5.
Oh, I was going to say way over on 1.5 because I think that both SMU and Cincinnati win their first game.
I meant 2.5.
I would still say over because I like SMU.
Yeah, see, I might even take the under on 1.5. I think one of them get knocked out in the first round.
Yeah, I just think that SMU can win like 3 games in the tournament, like by themselves. I'm not a huge Cincinnati fan either, so like, we're on the opposite side of the spectrum here. You can go to the third arena and have fun.
Yeah, I don't love the Cincinnati team by any means. I just think that to me, it's just always funny, like the narratives that people kind of talk about teams. Where Cincinnati's almost been a little bit of an afterthought with SMU on this, run down the stretch here. Yeah. But yeah, I just think Cincinnati's A better team, and B definitely has a much better resume.
I think that they're definitely a better resume. I think that my thing though is that like everyone got real excited about Cincinnati's offense, and I still don't trust it. Like I don't.
No, they at least have dudes that, like, at least Cumberland can go get his own bucket.
He's going to be a stud. Jacob Evans is going to be a stud. Like, these guys are awesome. But
I just think that's the difference this year compared to other years, is they at least have a guy that can go get his own.
And Gary Clark is one of my more like underrated, like, I know that Seth Davis did his glue guy thing earlier today. He is one of the most underrated glue guys in the country, I think. He is a beast defender who can get you an efficient shot. And I mean, to be fair, Cincinnati's adjusted offensive rating, 41st this year. That's the best it's ever been under Mick Cronin. Like, They are a little bit better offensively this year. I don't think that they are consistent enough offensively to where I trust them.
Yeah, I don't know. I just have no desire to watch I don't want to watch the American. If it's SMU Cincinnati final, I'll watch that game, but I don't have any desire to watch like Tulsa Houston or Tulane South Florida. Like, I'll catch the action there.
Yeah. Yeah, catch the fire, man.
Right. Leave me at airport sleeping if that game happens.
How many, let's be honest, though, how many American games will you bet on?
Oh, all of them.
Yeah.
I will just bet the under on every single American game.
Yeah.
Because they combined to score like 42 points.
Yeah, UCF has won me a good amount of money this year in terms of just betting unders.
Yeah, betting unders on UCF.
Yeah.
I mean, just still nothing beats the... All right, if you lose the noon ACC game and then you get like the 3 o'clock SWAC game to try to make your money back.
This is the best week in the world. I love it.
Oh, that's where you just feel like a true degenerate, where it's like, come on, Southern.
Oh, my God. I love this week so much. Do you have anything else exciting, Reags?
No, just doing a bunch of previews. It really is the best week. So there's a ton of stuff going up. You can always check it out at Barstool Sports. I tweeted out at Barstool Reags. So yeah, man, it's just gonna be crazy the next couple days. That's for sure.
Yeah, go to like you said, go to Barstool. For my money, I mean, I'm on that site every day. I love it.
Yeah, and the main guys there are a lot funnier and smarter than me. It's worth reading for that alone.
The outrageousness that happens on that website every day, I can't handle it.
Bill Walton's on part of my take tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited for that. That is one of the things I'm most excited for in my life right now. Like, no doubt. Go follow Reags at Barstool Reags. You can follow me at Sam_Vicini. I'll have a couple more things later this week. I'm writing up Markelle Fultz over at Vice. For Thursday, I am doing this big thing, like I said, on UT Arlington, and I'll probably try and have a couple more things released for NCAA tournament week next week. But until next time, you should use the Game Theory, GameTheory, promo code over at SeatGeek. I would really appreciate that. I would appreciate some more 5-star reviews over at iTunes, all of that jazz. But until next time, we will talk soon. Bye.